We have this brand new 10 scale 2-wheel drive electric race buggy as a roller. We're gonna build it up so it's finished as a race car, and then we're gonna every week slowly upgrade it to be the best race buggy that we can make it within a budget. So for today's video, we have all the items to finish off this roller into a moving vehicle. We have a lot of work to do, so let's do it. So what we have here is a B6.2 from Team Associated. This is the high bite surface vehicle because the B6.2 is also available as a B6.2D, and that vehicle is a little bit more suited for lower traction surfaces. Since we'll be using this at our local Silver Dollar RC Raceway 10 scale track, which is a carpet surface with really high bite, the 6.2 is gonna suit our applications a lot better. Now for the electronics that are going into this car, we actually polled you guys on Facebook and on YouTube asking, would you rather see more expensive competition grade electronics or more budget friendly electronics? And you guys voted for the competition grade. So we are actually going to be using used electronics that we took out of a prior 2-wheel drive race buggy. And we have for our ESC, it's a Maclan MMAX Pico. It's a 100 amp ESC. For the motor to go with that, it's a Maclan Team Edition V2. It's a 17.5 motor, and there's a 29 tooth Team Associated aluminum pinion gear on here. And then for our servo, it's a ProTek 160T aluminum case low profile servo. For the radio gear, we're gonna use my M11X and we're gonna bind it up to this Rudd Dog RR482 receiver. The battery is a ProTek 5800 2-cell shorty. It's 120C. And then lastly, for our tires, these also are coming off of our other 2-wheel drive competition buggy. For the rear tires, they are the Proline Pyramids. And then on the front tires, they are 2-wheel drive front Prisms from Proline. Now for the electronics for this build, we were gonna use some brand new electronics, and we also polled you guys asking because, as you know, there's the global health crisis going on, and parts and availability right now is really limited as we're waiting for suppliers to ship us our orders. So if we were gonna go with that more budget-friendly build on the electronics, we would have gone with the Hobbywing XR10 Justock Brushless Censored ESC, the Hobbywing Slingshot SLV 17.5 turn motor, the EcoPower WP120T servo. It's also high voltage if you wanna bump that up. And then we would have just probably used maybe a Gens Ace or a Venom battery pack instead of this ProTek. But for the other items, radio gear, tires, that would have all stayed the same. Now before we go at it, this B6.2 is brand new and fresh from Team Associated. They just released this kit pretty recently, and it comes really set up with the items needed to be competitive. But there's always going to be some parts you could do here or there to enhance the car for your particular surface, as well as what type of racing you'll be doing, like 17.5 stock or modified. So our plan is every week we're going to have a budget of $50, and we'll use that $50 to try to enhance the car in some way for our carpet racing. And if we have any money left over from the previous week, maybe we'll add that in if we go over in the following week. So for this week, we have some items to help us finish off this car. Lexan paint for our body. We needed a fan. This is a ProTek 30 by 30 by 10 millimeter fan. To go along with that, we have just some servo tape. And then lastly, we have some universal chassis protectors. This is a 2-pack, and we're gonna just kind of trace it out and put it on our chassis. And if you're curious how we built the car, it's completely box stock, and the setup also is straight from the manual. Let's go ahead and put that servo in first. So with the screw gun, it's really important to be gentle to not over torque the screws and strip out the plastic holes. So I just centered the servo manually with my hand, and I get a feel for how far over I am, and then take the horn off and readjust. Totally messed that up. Let's try again. So that is pretty dang close right there, and for any micro adjustments, we'll use our transmitter. Okay, servo's in. I think I want to put the motor in next. So I can't get the motor in because it's hitting the fan mount. So let's take that out really quick. When disassembling stuff, I like to take the screw that came out of a piece that needs to sit and just put that screw back in there. That way it's really hard to lose that screw and you know where it goes. So the motor fits now. Let's put our pinion gear on there. It is a 29 tooth pinion gear, and that is the 72 tooth spur gear included with kit. There's also a 78 for modified, but the manual recommends a 29 and a 72 for 17.5 racing. Let's set the gear mesh really quick. Okay, next. These motor wires are gonna fit. Oh, that's gonna be perfect. That looks good. This is gonna help our sticky tape really stick on. Let's do the ESC really quick. I don't have a transponder. That looks good. And lastly, our capacitor pack here, we're gonna stick that down. It needs a little bit of tape too. A flat blade screwdriver and just kind of run it along the edges of the tape. The ESC and capacitor is ready to go. Before we put that down, I'm gonna take a little bit more nitro cleaner and spray the surface, this metal plate, clean it off. So to get this backing off the tape, I just take an X-Acto knife and I just start to lift up a corner. I'm gonna push down the capacitor first on the plate because I want it to go all the way to the edge of the plate so I can maximize my space. Then I'm gonna push the ESC all the way up against the capacitor. Cool. Let's do the receiver. Right, that's all the electronics that we need to double side tape except for the transponder, which we'll have to get and put in later. So I need to dial in the battery brace here to make sure it's the right width for our battery. This negative lead can actually be shortened up a little bit, so it will be impossible for it to be plugged into the positive side here. All right, so we've soldered it up. We put a little piece of shrink tubing here with the sensor wire in there. It looks fairly clean, but if that sensor wire goes bad, then it's gonna be kind of an issue with it shrink tubed in there. We'll have to cut it out. So we still need to get the fan installed and then put the chassis protector on. So let's see. We have a little lead extension because that's pretty dang short. We'll want to test this to make sure it's blowing the correct way. We want air to be blowing on the motor. I believe we can just plug this into any other channel in the receiver. Nope. So the side with the shielding in the case, that's pushing all the air out of that side. It's quite a bit of air. But man, that fan's pretty loud. So the fan extension here, I'm gonna route underneath or behind this waterfall brace, and that way I can lay the wire flat in this channel, and then I'll get the little bit of electrical black tape, and we'll just put it right over that channel to seal up the wire. All right, it's in there. I couldn't find any black electrical tape, so we used some heat shield tape. So let's do the chassis protector next. This is one of the universal protectors that you'll need to cut out yourself, but what's nice about them is they'll fit almost any size 10 scale chassis. So to do this, we need to take this bumper off first. So we want the chassis protector to go underneath that bumper. Doesn't have to go all the way, but we don't want it hanging out because it'll catch on debris on the track. Since the protector is a lot longer than our chassis, really I just want to make sure that that width is aligned and I have a little bit of overlap on the front and the back where I was touching it with my fingers, and then we'll just trim around. You just push the suspension arms down because they do kind of hang up a little bit. So I'm gonna take my blade. All right, that looks pretty good. The last step is just to go with that flat blade and then kind of smush the edges and roll it up a little bit. This is good to do, even if you have a pre-cut chassis protector. Oh man, this thing is bad. Last things to do are to cut out the body and the wing and then paint the body. All right, off camera, we ended up just painting the body, cutting it out. We trimmed out the back wing, did the front wing as well, and then put the Velcro strips on the body to secure it to the chassis. Now, one thing I noticed, it might be hard to see, but right there's a little spot where the body is rubbing against the fan. and it removed the paint just a little bit. So to fix that, knowing that's gonna be a rub spot, I'm just gonna take one of these decals and I'm just gonna cut off a little square, and I'm gonna take this decal and put it right over that rub spot. So now in the future, if the aluminum case of the fan rubs against the body, it's gonna rub against this decal and not the paint. Now, one thing that's kind of a bummer, man, that fan is loud, is that once you put the body on, the sidewall here is gonna restrict our airflow for that fan. It's just gonna be recycling a lot of air that's under the body. So since it's cut off like that, I think maybe in the future, I might pop some holes, but I'm a little concerned with having that fan in that location and it really being butted up against the Lexan. But aside from that, the build turned out really good. I think the last thing we just need to go do is adjust our trims, but we can do that off camera. Now next week, I think we're gonna put this thing down on the track and try it out, see how it goes, see what maybe we need to add, change, or modify, and then we'll go from there. If you guys have any questions on any of the things that we used or talked about today, check out the links down below. If you have any questions, hit us up, and be sure to subscribe so you catch our future build videos. I'm Brett from AMain Hobbies. Thanks for watching.